There are moments when speaking seems to bring relief, yet it unintentionally creates more suffering. In the light of Buddhist wisdom, silence is not avoidance, but a deep form of awareness. When the mind is unsettled, words can carry anger. When the heart is not at peace, words can wound others and ourselves. In difficult situations, when misunderstood, when anger arises, when others are caught in ignorance, or when words no longer bring benefit, silence becomes wisdom. Silence allows us to observe our own mind, to recognize emotions as they arise and gently let them go. Silence prevents us from fueling conflict and instead nurtures the seeds of peace. The Buddha taught that right speech must be timely, truthful, and beneficial. If these conditions are not present, silence is the most compassionate path. When we choose silence with mindfulness, we are not weak, we are strong, preserving inner peace and planting wholesome seeds in life. One understanding the power of silence. Silence is not avoidance, nor is it indifference. In Buddhist teachings, silence is a form of deep mindfulness, a state where the mind returns to itself, no longer carried away by endless thoughts and words. When we understand the power of silence, we stop reacting impulsively, and we avoid speaking words that may harm. Just as a tree needs sunlight, the mind needs stillness to cultivate wisdom. In that quiet space, we begin to see ourselves clearly, seeing desire, anger, and learning to let go. Silence is not weakness, but the strength of one who returns inward. To silence in the face of anger. Anger is like a fire. If we are not mindful, it burns us first, before it reaches anyone else. In the Buddha's teaching, when anger arises, silence becomes wisdom, not to suppress it, but to create a space, allowing us to observe what is happening. Vitara. The Buddha spoke of the 2 arrows. The first arrow is the initial pain, something unavoidable in life. But the second arrow is the suffering we create ourselves through anger, blame, and harmful words. When we choose silence, we do not shoot the second arrow. We pause, we breathe, and we let go. In that moment, silence is not weakness, it is compassion, for ourselves and for others. 3. Silence in the face of gossip and slander. Words can heal, but they can also deeply wound. In life, gossip and slander are like toxic smoke, quietly spreading through both the speaker and the listener. In the Buddha's teaching, this is where we practice right speech, speaking what is true, beneficial, and timely. When we choose silence, refusing to engage in negative talk, we protect our mind from unwholesome seeds, because harmful words create karma, not only for others, but for ourselves. In this moment, silence is not agreement, but a quiet message that we do not nourish negativity. Sometimes, your silence becomes a mirror, inviting others to reflect on themselves. 4. Silence during conflict. In conflict, words easily become weapons, and the ego wants to win. But the more we react with anger, the more we argue to prove ourselves right, the further things spiral, deepening the wounds. In Buddhist wisdom, silence in this moment is not defeat, it is knowing when to pause. Silence is like a soothing medicine, calming the mind and creating space for deep listening. When we stop reacting impulsively, we begin to listen, not just with our ears, but with compassion. In that stillness, the cycle of negativity breaks, and the ego begins to soften. From there, understanding can arise, and the path to peace becomes possible. Silence during conflict is the strength of one who chooses peace over winning. 5. Silence in times of suffering. Suffering is something no one can escape, but how we are present with it shapes our healing. When we see others in pain, words can become unnecessary. Empty advice cannot reach a wounded heart. In that moment, a mindful silence, simply being there, listening, without judgment, is the deepest form of compassion. That quiet presence creates a safe space for them to feel, to be seen, and to slowly heal. And when we are the ones suffering, silence becomes a return inward. No need to explain, no need to appear strong. Just pause, gently observe the pain, and hold it with understanding. In that stillness, we learn to accept and to soothe ourselves. Silence, in this moment, is not loneliness, but a return to a compassionate heart. The wisdom of silence. Silence is not avoidance, but a conscious choice, guided by wisdom. When we know how to be silent, at the right moments, in anger, in gossip, in conflict, and in suffering, we begin to master ourselves. Silence allows us to pause, to look deeply within, and transform negative emotions into understanding. From there, compassion grows, relationships are protected, and suffering fades. Silence does not take anything away from us, but brings us back to true inner peace.